In the last 2.5 years, my business has done over $2.5 million in revenue, and this month we're on track to do over $200,000 in cash collected. And the highest leverage action that I can take is not making content, it's not taking sales calls, it's not getting on client calls, it's not even getting on calls with my team, it's not any of that, it's journaling. And I'm not talking about writing some dear diary, how beautiful the clouds are, how great the flowers smell. What I am talking about is deep, reflective journaling that materially changes the way that you think. And I'm not sitting here saying that just by writing a few words on a piece of paper that you're going to have a ton of success. But what I am saying is that journaling changed the way that I think, and as a result of changing the way that I think, it changed the way that I behave, which led to getting the results that I was actually looking for. So in this video, I'm gonna walk through why I started journaling initially, the problems that I was facing and how journaling helped me overcome them. And then at the end, I'm gonna give you a tactical framework that you can follow so you can start journaling today. Now, without further ado, I actually got my journal right here in front of you. And just for proof that I'm actually a writer and I put my money where my mouth is, here are a handful of journals that I've gone through in about the last 12 months. Those are just the last 12 months of journaling, okay? So I'm actually a big time writer and I absolutely love it. And at the end of the day, life is just a direct reflection of the actions that you take on a day-to-day basis. You see, what most people do is they live the same 5 years, the same 10 years, over and over and over and over again, and then they look up one day and they're like, where did all the time go? Why am I still in the same place? And so what journaling allows you to do is become the observer of your thoughts, change the way you think, because if you can change the way you think and improve the quality of your thinking, you will improve the quality of your decisions, therefore improving the quality of your life. Now, why did I actually start journaling, okay? So it was after my baseball career got done in 2021. I had just got done playing at Southern Illinois University. I set the single season school home run record and then played 10 days of independent baseball, realized very quickly that I probably wasn't going to make it to the major leagues. And to be quite honest with you, I was in a pretty depressed state of mind. I felt really purposeless and I felt that I had zero direction in my life. I felt lonely and I felt like nobody really understood me. Everybody around me was a lot older than me, and the kids that were around my age, all they wanted to do was party and chase girls and do all this different type of stuff. And so that's exactly what I initially resorted to, is I was just distracting myself with all of these things like women or drugs or alcohol or different things like that. And one day I had an experience where I was staying out a little bit later than I should have. I was doing some things that I shouldn't have. I was, drinking, I was doing drugs, and I drove under the influence. And by the grace of God, I didn't hurt anybody and didn't hurt myself. And I got back home and I decided to make a change. And it was actually on the 8-year anniversary of my grandmother's death, ironically enough. And I don't think there are any coincidences in this life. And so I decided to make a change. And that really brought me to the first problem that journaling helped me solve, which is that I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. Like a lot of former athletes, whenever they get done playing their sport, they oftentimes feel like they lack a purpose. You have this entire structure throughout your entire playing career as an athlete, and then one day that structure is just like a rug out from underneath your feet, just taken away from you. And along with that, it feels like your identity is taken from you as well. And so I just felt lost. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, and I was filling this void deep within me with drugs, women, alcohol, all these worldly things that were super unfulfilling. And so what I needed to do was get very clear on what it is that I wanted. And as I journaled and as I was able to gain clarity from journaling just by observing my thoughts, it gave me a clear roadmap to success. It gave me priorities, because finally, for the first time in my life since, quitting baseball, I knew exactly what direction I was headed. I had a clear roadmap to get there, and then it made decision making super easy because it was either in alignment with the goal that I had in my mind or it wasn't. And if it wasn't in alignment with that goal that I had in my mind, then I just wasn't doing it because I was so clear on what my priorities were that I was not going to compromise what those priorities were because I was writing it down in my journal every single day, okay? Number 2, I was going through cycles. I was going through these cycles and I noticed these patterns in my life. Okay, I was dating the same woman over and over and over and over again. Obviously they had, different names, different faces, different places, but I was basically dating the same woman over and over and over and over and over again. And I was using the relationship as a way to latch on and hopefully feel important. And I noticed that by journaling because I was single, I was sad, I was lonely, and I wasn't numbing myself with drugs and alcohol. All I had was this paper and this pen, and I was writing about how I felt, and I noticed that I had this pattern. It was the same thing. I went to 4 colleges when I was in college, and at the University of Notre Dame, I really struggled there after winning the starting job my freshman year. And then halfway through the year, once I lost my starting job and I knew that I wasn't going to win it back, I just quit. I was still on the team, but I wasn't there, if you know what I mean. I was a terrible teammate. And then the same thing happened at the University of South Carolina. I won the starting job, I struggled, and then I quit. And I started to notice these patterns in my life. These are just 2 examples that I'm giving you right here. And what journaling gave me was awareness. Awareness of the fact that I was the problem. And I just would write out the facts, like this is what's happening, and then I would observe them on paper. And there's something different about reading something that you say and going, wow, I need to be held accountable for what I just said right there, because like sometimes when you get really deep into like a journaling session and you're almost in a meditative state and you write something and you go, I can't believe I'm thinking that way. Okay, so it allowed me to break the patterns and finally course correct and start moving in the right direction, because as soon as I would start to have success in any area of my life, I would sabotage it. And so it allowed me to pick up on those mental patterns and figure out why I kept sabotaging myself. Where was that coming from? Okay. Number 3, I couldn't really articulate my thoughts or my emotions. And as a result of that, I couldn't communicate effectively, whether it was with women, whether it was in the workplace, whether it was with my friends, whether it was with my parents. It didn't matter. I wasn't the best communicator. I was a great yapper. I've always been a great yapper. I've always been really good at talking, but I wasn't always good at communicating a message effectively and sharing that through either a screen like this or just sitting next to somebody. I would ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble. And I think it made it difficult to communicate and connect with other people because they probably just felt like the conversation was one-sided, that it was always just all about Nick getting his words out. Nick was just talking to talk. And so what it allowed me to do was to, number 1, become aware of the fact that I had a lot of stuff going up in my mind that I needed to get out on paper and sort through myself, because at the end of the day, I was really lonely. I didn't feel like anybody could actually relate to me or understand what I was going through. And so I was basically my own friend, or I was basically my only friend, where I'm coming through here on the page and writing stuff out and getting all these thoughts out on paper. And then I was able to organize these thoughts, and then I can communicate my thoughts much more articulately. If you notice the way that I communicate now in these videos, if you go back and watch my old videos, I am so much more articulate, so much more certain in the words that I use. I use way less filler words, which is something that I'm still working on right now. But just by being aware of the words that I'm using, I'm very careful with my word choice because of how much time I spend putting my thoughts down on paper, okay? And then the last one, number 4, I felt like I was running in place. I didn't feel like I was making any progress, okay? And that was super frustrating because I was used to going in the weight room and then every single week you progress a little bit. Or going out on the field, you progress a little bit. You start to hit the ball a little bit harder. You start to run a little bit faster. You're a little bit more accurate. You make the plays a little bit better, or whatever, sport or skill that you're involved in. I was used to progressing, okay? And I was just running in place, but I didn't have any sense of accountability because I didn't have a coach there on top of me telling me, hey, you got to make that play, or we can't be doing that, or that's a great job when you do that, you should do more of it. I didn't have any level of accountability. And so by journaling, what it allowed me to do was hold myself accountable to my own thoughts. It gave me a legitimate sense of accountability because what gets measured gets improved. Okay? So those are the four main problems that journaling helped me overcome. Now, I'm going to dive into the framework that I actually use for journaling, which I've developed over, hundreds and thousands, tens of thousands probably of pages of journaling and, 5 years now. And I haven't always been the most consistent, but over the last 12 months, I've been incredibly consistent with my journaling, and that's when I've seen the biggest changes, okay? So before I dive into the framework, the most important thing is to be consistent, is to just show up every single day. And so the first thing that I do is in the morning, within the first 45 minutes, I learned this from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It is an absolutely fantastic book. And the way actually that I was brought, or that I started reading this book, this is a crazy story. I had been told by a couple people to get this book, so I ended up buying it because I'm just the type of person that if somebody says like, hey, you should get this book, I'll just buy it right there. And I know that eventually I'm gonna read it. And it was like, back in the queue because I got a bunch of books on my bookshelf. And one day I'm sitting in my living room here and I'm thinking, well, I'm up pretty early. I feel like there's something that I could be doing with my extra time right now. And as I'm having that thought, I hear a thud in my office. And I'm freaked out because I live alone. And so I walk into my office and the book, The Artist's Way, is sitting face up in my office. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. I need to read this book. So I start reading the book, and the tool that it prescribes inside that book is called morning pages. So every single day, regardless of where I'm at, how much sleep I got, whatever it is, I am prioritizing my morning pages. I have a separate journal for my morning pages. This is more of my daily, which I'll get into how I separate the two. But I have a journal strictly for morning pages. I wake up, I'll drink water with electrolytes and creatine, and then boom, I'm on the page. It's 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. And I'm just letting the words come out. I'm not picking up my pen. And I'm just writing for 3 pages. If you have nothing to say, you literally just write, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say for 3 pages. I guarantee you, you will come up with something to say. It's just stream of consciousness. And I'll give you a couple tactics on how you can come up with ideas of what to say in the morning. But really what we're looking for here is just to get all of the blah in your brain out on the paper. We want to get it out of our brain and onto the paper. And so that way we can start to observe our thoughts and see what our thought patterns are. I never read my morning page entries. I never read them. The reason why is because, number one, I don't want to judge myself for what I'm saying on the page. I just want to put the words on the page and then let them be there. And I'm doing that every single morning, regardless of if I'm super tired, if I got 10 hours of sleep, if I got 4 hours of sleep, it doesn't matter. I'm showing up to the page every single day. Now, I know 3 pages maybe seems like a lot for a beginner if you've never journaled before. I promise you, it is worth it. I promise you it is worth it, because as I started doing these morning pages more, I started observing sometimes some of the negative thought patterns that I could catch myself in. Oh, I'm super tired. I don't want to do this today. And as I'm writing it, I'm forced to observe my thoughts and like, how am I going to have a successful day today if this is the mental state that I'm in right now? And immediately I can start flipping it and feeding myself with positive thoughts. Okay, and I'm writing out positive thoughts. I'm actively trying to. Okay, and then at the end, on the 4th page, I'll do some affirmations. I know this is a little bit woo-woo. I know it might seem a little bit crazy, but I promise you, your identity is the number one most important thing when it comes to accomplishing your goals. It's not about your actions, okay? It's not about how disciplined you are or anything like that. It's about your identity. Because if you are the type of person who makes, let's say, $200,000 a month, that's how you identify, then you're going to have the beliefs that that person has. You're going to have the actions that somebody who makes $200,000 a month has. And then as a result, over time, as reality and time catch up, you are going to make $200,000 a month as a byproduct. Okay, so I am manufacturing my identity every single day with I am statements that I want to embody, or the things, the emotional things that I'm working through that have come out in my morning pages. So for example, I had a lot of problems with feeling insufficient, with feeling like I wasn't worthy of my dream life. Like I was afraid to dream big because I was afraid that if I dreamed too big, then I would be disappointed. And so I just started writing in my journal every single day on my affirmations. I, Nick, am deserving of my dream life. That's one of my affirmations. I write it every single day. I, Nick, am deserving of my dream life. Something else that I was really struggling with was I was trying to control every single outcome and not really, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but I'm a man of God. I was really struggling with trying to control every single outcome in my life. So the first thing that I write on my affirmations, I, Nick, surrender to God. That's all I write. I, Nick, surrender to God. I, Nick, am a vessel for God to work miracles through. If you write that for 365 days in a row, you start to believe it. And when you start to believe it, you start to embody the fact that you are whatever it is that you're writing on the page. Okay? And that has really helped me detach from needing outcomes and just trusting that God's got me and that I can tap into the infinite intelligence that is God at any time. Okay? So that's what I do in the morning. Okay? In the evening time, this is when I set up for the rest of the day. And I can probably even show you guys an example. And you can see right here, here are my notes for this video. Okay? So during the day, I follow a structure here on my page. I go 1 or 2 priorities. I've actually tried to just narrow it down to 1 priority. I wrote Yap video, that's this one. Then any of my overflow, if I feel that I have more energy, I'll do the overflow. And then on the right side, I'm putting any of my meetings, and then I'll have like just random stuff beneath. So I put like grocery list. I actually have an ops assistant. I told them these are the things that we need. And I made this list last night, okay? And so I'll get into, how I actually will write throughout the day and how I'll get ideas and stuff like that. But one of the most, if not the most powerful thing that I've ever started to do is tracking these 13 things right here, which I'm gonna walk you through, okay? I call them my 13 daily W's. And you can do 12. I like to do 13. This is just what's worked best for me. But I like to live by the phrase that what gets measured gets improved, or what gets measured gets managed. And so there are 13 things that I am tracking every single day, okay? And so those 13 things, and I've created like W words for some of these because they're not actually W's, it's just like an acronym that I like. But the first one is wake up. What time did I wake up? And then I'll try to do these like in the order of like which I did them, okay? The second thing is how much did I weigh? The second thing I do right after I wake up is I go to the bathroom, and then I weigh myself on my scale, okay? The third thing, how much water did I drink? How much water did I drink? Number 4, what did I write today? Did I write my morning pages? Did I do a short writing? Did I plan out a YouTube video? Did I reflect in the middle of the day? What writing did I do? How much did I walk? Number 5, how much did I walk that day? How many steps did I take? Okay, number 6, whole foods. I eat a very clean and healthy diet, and I'm tracking how many calories I had that day. And if I come off of my diet of whole foods, I'll write in there like, had a cookie or something like that, But I'm just putting it in there. No judgment on myself. All I'm trying to do is just write what I did for that specific task. I'm not trying to judge myself. I'm not trying to fudge the numbers, okay? Because if we're not honest with ourselves, with what we're actually doing in the day-to-day, we're cooked. Right? Then we can't actually improve. Okay, number 7, work. What did I do for work? I used to track how many hours I worked, but what that made me do is start to just work and be productive just so I could write 12 hours, at the end of the day. What I found is much more important is the actions that I took when I was working. Not how much did I work, but what did I actually get done that day, okay? Then from there, workout. I'll put whatever I did for my workout and then like my top set of whatever it was. So like for example, yesterday I said I did a push day and my top set was I did 245 for 3 on the close grip bench, okay? Which is a little bit light for me. My ego's talking right there. Okay, and then after that, wisdom. What wisdom did I take in? And so I try and take in at least one piece of wisdom, and it causes me to reflect to make sure that I'm learning something every single day that is actually applicable. Because sometimes we watch these YouTube videos, we listen to podcasts, we have all these great conversations, and then we go home and we live the same day the next day. We don't take anything away from it, right? Then from there, worship. Number 10 is worship. I am reading the book of Luke right now. And so I'll just write like whatever book I'm reading. Sometimes I'll write like a specific verse if I feel like there was a verse that stuck out to me. But whatever I did to spend time in worship. Obviously, if you're not a Christian, you could skip that one, or I would obviously highly recommend it. But that's what I do. Okay, number 11. This is a new one that I added, and it's women. So for a really long time, I was not talking to any women at all. I basically cut them entirely out of my life. And I felt like I needed to spend a lot of time on my own because, like I said, I noticed this cycle that I was dating the same woman for the same reason over and over and over again. I was just trying to fill a void in my heart of not being accepted or not being validated. So I would just get into a relationship with somebody who made me feel accepted and made me feel validated. So for a long time, I wasn't talking to any women, so that way I could figure out how I could feel accepted and validated without the need of a woman, and then I could introduce a woman into my life. So this is actually something fairly new, and I wrote about this woman that I talked to at a coffee shop yesterday. I just started a casual conversation, and then I talked to another woman just like in passing. So I'm just like tracking if I'm talking to women at all, because for me, it's something that I'm trying to pay attention to. Let's say you're in a relationship right now. If I was you, I would write about, how your relationship with that person was going. Like, did you show them love? How did you show up for them? All those things. Number 12 is well-being. Okay, what is my overall well-being for the day? Was I, and something that I've noticed over time is that my 10 out of 10 has gone drastically through the roof. Like I was writing 10 out of 10 3 months ago, and I feel better than I did 3 months ago now. And my standard for a 10 is continuing to go up. Okay, and the number 13 is wind down. What time did I start to do my wind down routine? Okay, so those are the 13 W's, and then at the end, I will reflect, and I'll just write whatever is on my mind. Maybe there was something that happened that day that was noteworthy. Maybe there was something like a question that I thought about during the day. Maybe there's a stress that's on my mind. I just write about it and I just go. I'm not trying to put any guardrails or anything like that on what I'm trying to say or like a structure to it. I'm just going. I'm just letting my mind go. And a lot of people, they'll ask me, what do you write about? And it's literally anything that's on my mind. Like I might even write about tonight how I made this YouTube video and how awesome and how fulfilled I felt when I was planning for this YouTube video and how much effort I put into this YouTube video and how amazing it's going to be to deliver this to the people that have been asking me about how is it that I journal, right? So I might even write about that, or I might write about why didn't I talk to that girl at the coffee shop? Like, what was I feeling that prevented me from going up and talking to her? Was it was a feeling of embarrassment? Well, what is embarrassment? And then I'll just define these terms and get very granular. Like even, for example, the other day, I wrote about how, I wish I had it pulled up right now. I wrote about how insecurity is feeling unsafe with yourself. And that was all something that I just came up with throughout my writing, okay? So, not to get too far in the weeds, but that's what I'll do every single night. And then after I do that reflection, as you can see right here, I have my day of, and then I'll just write like whatever I'm gonna do the next day. So that way I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, what am I gonna do today? What am I gonna do today? A lot of people out there, they wake up in the morning and they go, oh, what do I do? They're in a state of fight or flight. They gotta be somewhere in 30 minutes. They brush their teeth really quick. If they remember to, then maybe they eat breakfast. If they do, they stop at a drive-thru. They get a quick energy drink. They have a ton of energy. They're anxious on their way to work because they drank so much caffeine. And then 2 hours later, they start crashing. So then they hit another energy drink and then they just put a ton of terrible stuff in their body. And they feel terrible all the time, all because they didn't properly prepare for the day. Okay, I'm pretty sure Sun Tzu said in The Art of War that you want to prepare. Or maybe he didn't say that. Maybe I totally made that up. Anyway, I'm writing out what is my 1 or maybe 2 priorities for the day. What are the meetings that I have for the day? Any personal things, any tasks I need to get done. Like, for example, shooting this YouTube video, my #1 priority. A task may have been upload YouTube video that I shot yesterday. And then any overflow, and then I'll just take notes on all of my meetings or things that happened. And that way it gives me #1, content ideas to go back on, and then #2, things to reflect on whenever I'm going back in my journaling, okay? So that's how I journal. I mean, that's really the framework. And the most important thing to remember when journaling, and the most important thing that I've learned, is that you just have to do it. You just have to show up. The more you journal, the more you can journal. The more you write, the more you can write. And now I can write endlessly. I could write about whatever. And it's made me so much more articulate. It's made me so much more aware of my thoughts. It's made my mind a lot quieter because now I don't have all these little buzzing thoughts in my mind. It's also given me an excuse to put my phone away early from bed, and then I can just take the time and reflect. So this is my journaling framework. If you have any questions, go ahead, leave them in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this on the frameworks that I use in my life to accomplish everything that I've accomplished, then let me know. Hopefully this is super, super valuable for you guys. Hopefully you got a ton of value. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.